Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're the hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every day, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can view all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues that affect you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
Good morning. We'll call the Commission on Aging Well for February 13th, 2025 to order. Do we have a motion to approve the draft minutes from the January 9th meeting that were sent to the Commission? Are there any changes or additions?
Can we even approve if we don't have a quorum?
No, we cannot.
Never mind, we're
We'll have
moving
to
right
defer
over to
that.
Dave.
Are there any? We'll see if there are no public appearances.
We gotta move, oh gosh,
Well-
yeah, make a motion to amend it.
Yeah, can we have a motion to amend the agenda to start with item B? We'll need a quorum for approving the minutes and for the resolution, which is item A on the agenda. So if I can have a motion to amend the agenda to begin with item B.
I motion to begin the agenda with I motion to amend the agenda so we can begin at item B. There you go.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any objections? Okay, the motion passes, and we will begin with the 2024 programs report from David Hill. Take it away, Dave.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. Hi, everyone, and I know everybody here, so it's not so intimidating. And you know, it's fun to just go over the programs report with individuals that are really engaged with what we do here at the Senior Center, and not trying to sell something to individuals that are trying to see if our value is worth it in our community or not. I know that everybody here highly values what we do, and that's proven through your time commitment and coming to committees like this, volunteering and being part of who we are. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, 2024 was another great year for us. And I believe in 2023, we started the format of monthly reports to the city instead of one annual report at the end of the year. And so the packets that were included today include January through December of 2024. So there's a lot of reading there, but the gist of it is, in terms of programming, is what we have done each month. So, and at first I wasn't quite sure on how this format would really be effective in reporting, but I do like to look back each month and see exactly what we did within that month. And
Dave, if I can just chime in, that in the past, this is the first year that the city has had us do monthly reports. We used to only do annual reports, and then Dave would come and present on that. So this was sort of a pilot year. Last year was for these monthly reports, And initially, they were just sharing them with council and the mayor. But starting this year, I will be including these reports in your packet. So we'll always have 2-month delay though, because our January report won't come out until, we don't have that due until next week. So it depends on when the commission packet goes out, but again, that's why we have a compilation of monthly reports that we haven't shared, because initially it was only to go to council. So, but you'll be seeing these now moving forward. So, sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that. So if you just take a quick look at, started in January 2024, just the bullet points there of programs offered, and that's sort of the trend moving forward through that packet. You know, the popular in-house programs listed there, year in, year out, those programs consistently bring in a good number of participants, and so we try to track that year to year and make sure that if those programs are dipping, why is that? Jill and I talk about and troubleshoot programs that might become stagnant and how we deal with those, because that is staff time that's put in, that's volunteers, those are hours that you really can't get back. And really what we're looking at in such a busy senior center is that we want to be as efficient as possible and make sure that everything that we are offering is what people are looking for and in bringing a quality of life to them. So that's a balance of our exercise programs. It's the wellness with foot care and massage and acupuncture. It's the transportation program. Jill, I think we had talked maybe 230 rides in the last year for participants.
For RSVP.
For RSVP. And what a wonderful program that is, that it's outside of the building, but it gets people where they need to be. It doesn't involve hardships on children that might be at work for these individuals that need to get to the doctor and back home. So what a great program that is. And I know we have some drivers here that can relate to that. But from my standpoint, after 26 years of being at the senior center, I really have found that my passion lies in the ability to track numbers online through our web interface, but also our news flash interface. You can see in January that we had a subscription number of 1,328, and as of today, I just checked that number. We're at 1,592, so a growth of about 260 odd new subscribers. And so my goal is to get that number up to 1,600 by the end of this year, and I think we could surpass that number. And so what that number provides to me, it sounds like just a number, but when that news flash goes out each month, it highlights the programs that we're offering for the next month. But up on my other screen here, it shows me exactly what people are clicking on. So it gives me an instant feedback of what is piquing people's interest. And surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, the newsletter, the majority of people click on the link for the newsletter. And that's encouraging because, we've gone back and forth on, is the newsletter outdated? Do we need a newsletter? And well, these numbers show us that, people want the newsletter. And so just that alone is a metric that we can follow and understand that the things that people are clicking on gives us that instant feedback on where we need to focus our attention. And so any questions so far? I don't want to just ramble without anybody having any questions that I can provide some clarity on anything.
Dave, have you thought about adding charts for like the meals and the case management to show variations or growth or really any of your metrics?
meals and case management, I would have to talk to the staff and see what they could provide for that. But yeah, I'm sure we could come up with something like that.
Yeah, this is Janice. When I looked at it, and it might be my device, so I need to get a hard copy of that to really take a look at it. But I think in terms of data, it would be extremely helpful to be, particularly at the end of the year, to compare, what show up through graph 23 and 24, where's the differences? Also, and maybe, how do you go about deciding on what data points that you want to measure? It's just a question. Because I just think that there's a lot of data points that could give us a lot of information. You're absolutely right, about the clicking and the newsletters or whatever. So it just seems like that would be really nice to see, some deep dive in some of the statistics. That's all.
Yeah, I guess I'm constrained by the systems that we have that are provided to us software-wise, and that can only go so far. The annual report in past years was one report. Now we have 12 reports, and so it sounds, from my standpoint, it sounds good in theory to have tons of numbers every single 30 days. But the reality is that every 2 weeks I start the next newsletter, and I've got a pocket of 2 weeks of finding the content that's going to be valuable for that next month. So it's really, each month it's really compressed in terms of how we operate. That being said, those are things that we're continually looking at. But again, it's looking at the software that the city would provide us, or software that we know that is out there that other senior centers may have that could give us better clarity on case management numbers, meal numbers. I think we could pull that stuff, so we will definitely talk about that after.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dave and I have been talking about that since, we've got several databases we're using, and trying to coordinate all of the data into one has been really difficult. So we can definitely pull out, and I have a lot of case management information if you want to hear from that today, because that's our access database that's connected to Dane County. That's going to tell you income, it's going to tell you race, it's going to tell all kind of stuff, because we have to report that to Dane County. Same with the meal program, because that's tied to the federal funding. So we use Peer Place, that's a different database that all that information goes into. And then for our own selves, our own selves, we're using Google, where Dave's doing a lot of the registration and where people sign up, and we have resident, non-resident. And so, to do one big snapshot is hard, but I think we can, and we're talking about trying to gather more information, about ethnicity and income. But I think, I've talked about this before, asking, the data is only as good as what we're collecting. So say we've got 25, 30 people playing euchre every single week. Do we ask them all for their income, their race, whatever, the people that just walk in, maybe people that are coming for movies, do we always ask for all that information, because it seems so invasive? Even people at Lunch and Learn, Janice, it's really hard to capture that. So that's why we started moving towards the facility site, the data, the door, at least the door. Who's coming in the door, so we at least have foot traffic. But I'm really struggling with how to capture all that data, because we don't have a membership, and having a membership takes a lot of tracking of people coming and going. And because we have 2 entrances, we can't do a nice, easy swipe card to register everybody. So we've been talking about it actually for a couple weeks, because every year I'm like, all right, we got to get a better handle on this data. So we know who we're serving and how we're serving them, but it's a constant battle because we have so many different databases.
Yeah, I think so.
And I wasn't so much talking specific to case management, or income and all that. I'm just saying it just would be nice, whether it's once a quarter or at the end of the year, so you can take a look at whatever the data is, so you can see some comparisons.
Oh yeah, we can definitely do that. Yeah.
a chart, a graph, or something, because how would we know? I mean, for example, I read something that said 700 programs were delivered or whatever.
Yeah.
What does that really mean?
Right.
You know, how do you break that down? You know, that's all I'm saying.
No, I get it. And the annual reports, it was so much easier because you just took this annual and this annual. So now it's just capturing all this different data and going through all these reports and putting it together, you know, so we do have that. Yeah.
Well, I think this would,
No, I
it would
agree with
show
Dave.
trends, I
Yeah.
think is what Janice is saying. Am I right, Janice? Trends is what you're looking for.
Well, yeah, for us to know that. Yeah, how are we trending? Are we trending upward? Are we trending down? What's really going on with that? So, Dave, I understand what you were saying. You know, every 2 weeks you add it. So, no, I'm not suggesting that you do that every month. So, but overall, it would be nice to be able to say, take a look at what are we doing. Over a period of time, whether it's year to year or whatever, but some graphs so we can continue to take a look at that and see where we're going up, where we're going down, where we're just staying steady, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all.
Yeah, and I think it would be good to have the questions of what numbers do we want to see, and then take those and then focus in on how do we extract the data and put it into charts. So
Yes.
we got a lot of, we could probably parse out 30 different things that we want, or maybe it's 15 things that we want, but we have to narrow in on those important items.
What are the key things? What are the key things we need to know?
Yeah, I like that.
This is Bonds.
Hey.
I can't imagine within Fitchburg City Hall there isn't someone who can assist you with that, David. Because if you have things in Excel, you can make visual charts with that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just easier a quick overview. It's easy to compare things in a visual chart as opposed to looking at numbers and going back and forth.
Sure. Yeah. When it comes to the web-based, what I do, the programs, I can create that stuff because that data is in there already. And I know Mandy could probably come up with something quite easily. She's quite good with that, but I don't know anybody at the city that
would want to tackle our stuff
to the city at all. No.
But I know this sounds simple, but it's not, because it really it helps us to dig into the depths of who are we serving and why are they coming.
Yeah.
And numbers just don't do it for me. I need something a little more solid. That's one.
Well, Donald just offered. Sorry, Bonds.
Sorry.
That's fine.
I said Donald just offered to help us put this data into more chart formats.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank you, Donald.
No problem.
The other thing is we really need to, I'm beginning to feel even stronger about looking at our ethnographical information for our city. And I don't know if we can do this with that information or if you have that kind of information, but it would be interesting to see who we are serving, like from what areas in the city of Fitchburg. Are they coming from, the northern part of Fitchburg, whatever? And then what their ethnic background is for those groups. Because I keep hearing from people that we've got a number of, I keep hearing from people who are Latino, that we have a number of people and they don't feel like they're welcome there and they don't know what's going on and yada, yada, got it. But I also don't know, we get tons of people, I know that, but who are we getting in there? When I come on the middle of the day, I may be one of 2 or 3 people who are African American. I might see 1 or 2 Latino Hispanics. Now, granted, I don't come every day, so I don't, my visual check is limited.
Well, and again, Bonds, we serve in 3 databases. Again, I can, the case management database is amazing. It's I can pull out that we served in 2024 8 Asian people. We served Asian other, these are county things. We served 134 black people. We served 64 Hispanic people in case management because we have such a great database for that. But again, to capture programming, it just gets a little more difficult because, how much information do I ask somebody when they walk in the door for nail painting? I need your income, I need your...
But I really think we need to at least figure out how we can it may be optional. I mean, I'm great. I'm excited, and I know a lot of people reach out for case management issues. I did when I first started coming there. That's kind of how I got involved originally.
Right.
But then what happened? They just drop off. Where are those 66 African Americans? Where are those 100 and something? What happens to them? Why aren't they engaging in other activities?
Well, that's a different
even know
story,
where they
right?
come from.
Yeah.
Right. If we don't even know where they come from in this city, it's hard to do some active targeting for sending information or putting out pamphlets or anything.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Donald.
Instead of asking people at every event, do you have, like, when somebody comes to the center, like maybe you catch them one time and we get those, all of the demographic information, and what we could do is assign them like a unique identifier, so that every time, and then what you could do at events, you just have a printout with well, I don't know, now I'm thinking about this may not be the best thing. If there are individuals with like memory issues and things like that, and I don't want them to forget that unique identifier, but you could assign people one, and then they just check it when they come, and then every time we run a report, we can just match the data, like the unique identifier to the demographic data for them and run the data that way.
Right. So again, I'm open to all ideas, but because we don't have staff at this entrance and 40% of our programs happen upstairs, people go in and out. The data is only as good as people checking off their information. So, we do have a lot of pre-registrations that we can pull data from. It's just, and so the drop-in programs, not so much, like Janice's Lunch and Learn. I mean, if they're there for lunch, we have all their data. If they're sitting in the back, we try to collect it. You just get busy. I forget to hand out the things. But, I think the pre-registered programs, we certainly can pull that kind of data from. We ask for resident, non-resident, and then we ask for ethnicity oftentimes. And then some programs, again, just don't pre-register because it doesn't feel right. But I'd like to sit down and talk to you if you do a lot of data collection. I think we have room to improve, no doubt. But we're getting better from where we were.
And on the website, those that are using the website interface, we do have the registration every year. And so we ask for that information. And I'm looking here at 2024, and we have about 385 registered individuals. And, obviously the majority are white, but we do get a little slice of what we're talking about within that registration page. So, I mean, at least we're trying to get something out there. And quite frankly, what we're trying to do with the web interface is, 2 years ago, people would just call in and the front desk would literally write it down on a piece of paper in a binder for signing someone up or asking for information. What we're turning to is individuals having the ability to go on and do that themselves, register for programs and streamline it so staff or volunteers are not bogged down by 200 phone calls just for something that could be done online. Yes, certainly people can call or stop by to register. That will never change. But what we're trying to do is streamline the ability for people to just be sitting on their couch and filling out information at their leisure, and encouraging more of a fluid interaction between us and the participants as much as possible. So this is just another arm to enhance our visibility to the community as much as possible.
I also think the registration part is great. You can get a lot of data out of there. That tells us who are repeats. It tells us what part of Fitchburg are they coming from. So I think there's a lot that can be done with that. So there's great possibilities going forward.
Yeah, Dave, what we talked about, trying to give incentives for people, like maybe every quarter, because again, we don't have a mandated membership, and it's not a road I think I want to go down, because then oftentimes you have to, what's in it for me or whatever, but that, once a quarter we say, all right, we've got to, ask the friends for a $50 gift card to somewhere. If you've pre-registered, we're going to throw your name in a hat, and then maybe we do it again in June, because there's not a lot of incentive for people to just go on randomly and register. I don't know if they see the value in it. So, but that is where we're collecting most of our data, Janice. for programs.
For registrations, right?
Yeah, just
Is that
the,
what you
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, any other questions? Yeah, this is great. This is the kind of stuff that, Jill and I love to hear because we're constantly thinking of this. I mean, when I'm at home at night, I'm trying to think of ideas and ways to improve things. And in my 26 years of being here, I don't think I've been more enthused about what I am doing than right now. It's just really exciting. I don't know if it's because I'm becoming closer to that senior age, or just the growth that we have seen in different areas that really excites us. And so it's just it's a great time right now to be working here at the Senior Center. And I love it.
Dave?
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest win was in 2024, and what was your biggest disappointment?
In terms of programming,
Not personally.
yeah.
Right.
I think, sort of selfishly, I think the biggest win is how we are offering the ability to engage in our programs online and also at the Senior Center. And here's an example. Our loan closet. In years past, in the loan closet, I say this because we get a lot of foot traffic of people coming in looking for wheelchairs, walkers, raised toilet seats, you name it.
Probably like 50 a month when now we can track it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are keeping track. And so I created for our website, a scan QR code where someone walks in, they need a wheelchair, staff can take them back to the equipment room and get what they need, do the QR code with their phone. It brings up the form, they fill it out. And once they fill out that form, it pops up in my email that someone did an input for the loan closet, and I can go in and it will show me the spreadsheet immediately of that. It's the foot care where our volunteers go online and have the forms available and sign people up for their next foot care appointment, and it drops right into spreadsheets for the upcoming months. It's not pencil and paper and taking it out to the front desk and then that's transferred into the computer manually. It's already done. It's saving multiple steps. It's the RSVP program. Instead of people having to call in, give all the information and writing it all down, putting it in the computer, making 10 calls to drivers and waiting for responses. Now kids can do it from work for mom and dad. They can fill out the form online. Susie at the front desk gets an alert that there is a new added ride. She gets that information. There's drop downs for all the different locations that people go to. So there's not writing that information down multiple times a month. That information's pre-baked into the form. She takes that information, shoots it out to the drivers by email, and then gets that in return. So it takes maybe a 15-minute process per call to 1 or 2 minutes, and then she shoots it out and waits for that return on that. So my biggest win is the streamlining of how we operate when we have such a big volume of participation coming in and out, and from phone calls to emails to online registrations. It's becoming much more streamlined. It gives us the ability to breathe and make sure that we are really running the best possible programming that we can at the Senior Center. So I think that is my biggest win. And I think, in talking about the numbers, I think, we could say this probably every year is how do we really get a good number on people coming through the doors? It's been so many years of us trying to figure that out. And it's a struggle. Do we do a gym membership where you can't get in the doors without swiping a card? I mean, that's how gyms operate. You can't you can participate without that. We don't have that. We have 3 or 4 different entrances in the city hall. We have folks that, you know, are 85 years old, and the last thing that they're going to do is come in and start punching computer keys and entering that information. That's just not really reasonable. So that to me is a real struggle, and I guess we could call it a disappointment for sure, because we want to be as accurate as possible, and we at this point that is still elusive. But through these kind of conversations, and even after this meeting, I'd love to have you give me ideas, give Jill ideas. We brainstorm, because it's not just us that's going to solve this problem. We need that outside, fresh perspective. And so Paul, I think that's pretty much where I am with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dave, have you thought about publishing an annual report sort of thing in the newsletter? Maybe just in simple chart form to show how many people come through the doors, how many meals you serve, how many case management, so that people, you know, I think people have a rough idea of services offered, but it might be nice to put in, since you already have the data, just a short summary of the key points. Wouldn't have to take up a lot of room, but it would be good feedback, I think, for the community and for people that use the center. And maybe it would jar them into thinking about, I know somebody who could use this service, or...
Oh, that's a good idea, because those are really specific numbers that we can get.
And they're things to be proud of.
Right, and I think as Dave was alluding, like people coming through the doors, again, the facility site, the people counter software, it's really fun, because we can collect that data from 8 to 4. We're averaging 4,500, 4,900 in January, so about average, what we say, 230 a day, and it's exactly what we thought, but now it's validating to have this number. Now, can we you know, attach an ethnicity and an income level and blah, blah, blah to that number? Not right now, but at least it's putting us in a direction where we can put that in an annual report, like, okay, you know, this is how many people walk through the doors for senior center programs and services and we're very cognizant if rec has a rental one day and there's, you know, 50 or 60 people up in a room, that we're not gonna dump that data into our stuff. But that's gonna be helpful too. So that's a nice number we could put in a snapshot. Oh, go ahead, Donald.
No, I was just wondering, we don't have to answer this now, but just to put it in the air, are there specific items that you want to pull out, or things that you specifically want to celebrate during, or that the council should hear related to this report, and that I could address during the audit updates when we're talking about our respective committees? Just let me know if there's certain things to pull out, so I do have a copy if folks want to just send things my way, or tell me which ones to pull out and let folks know.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to note, you know, nothing against the rec department, but I love how when the rec department puts on programs, generally kids are out of school after 4 o'clock, let's say, and they have their evening programs, or it's the weekend, things like that. The rec department programs, but then at the end of the day, they leave and go home. And instructors or volunteers, parents, they do the programming. Whereas, for an example, tomorrow we have our Valentine's party. Now it's going to be a small one, but it's the individuals that come to lunch that are isolated at home, don't have much going on, and all the staff will be there and all the staff will engage. And that is the sweet spot of what we do and why our staff has been there so long. Is just that connection with our folks. We are engaged every day. Yesterday, Tuesday, the men's group was going on, and they had computer problems. And somehow I'm tagged the IT guy, and my background is social work. So when we talk about numbers, it's hard for me. When we talk about IT, Well, I've sort of grown into that, but I go in there and I chat with the men's group and we get some laughs out of it. But those are the kind of things that we provide to our participants that I think is just priceless. And I think that's where the magic is that you have to be engaged. If you have that disconnect, if we go home or if we program in the evening and then we open up the senior center and then it's just run by instructors and volunteers and they never see anybody staff wise, it wouldn't work. And so for us and how we operate, and senior centers across Dane County certainly have the same type of model. And it really gives you a quality of personal feel goods. And so I just wanted to share that as well. Any other questions? And again, I would like to continue this conversation with everybody and really hone in on what data we want to look at, because the end of the year is going to be here before you know it. So I don't want to end this conversation here and then we're talking about it in October, because then by that point, then it really becomes really hard.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
you get a half-assed package of information.
Well, maybe we should all take a look at this report and then come back next month with any recommendations.
Right, things you want to see, things we can be collecting better, but any input is welcome.
Just a little bit, we can carry on the discussion then next month. Are there any
and for anybody that would like to see the numbers behind the scenes with all the online registrations, to see those numbers, just get a hold of me and we can go into one of the rooms and I can put it up on the projector and we can go through the data analytics of all of that. I'd like to show you the numbers on that. So Janice, I see you quite often, so I'll hit you up for that. So
yeah, well, I'm just saying that's okay. I'm just wondering, Dave, why don't you put a meeting date out there open for all of us, and then we schedule. You schedule it, we come.
Okay.
If we want to, then we come. Yeah.
Okay.
Put
I
up on the
totally
big
agree.
screen.
If I'm available, I'd come.
That's great. That's a good idea, Janice.
Good idea.
I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Are there any other questions for Dave? Thanks a lot, Dave.
So Dave, you have to.
Go ahead, Vance.
Dave, you have to hand in something every month now. Is that what the commission is asking you to do?
The city.
The city.
Okay.
Yeah. And these.
So will we get a copy of that also?
It'll be in your packet now, Vance, moving forward. You'll get this monthly report. And these headings, these are headings that we determined. This format is exactly what every report from every department looks like, format-wise.
Gotcha.
But we can choose the data we want to include.
Okay.
So before Dave,
thank you for the clarification.
Sure, and before Dave steps off, I just want to give him a lot of credit. He has really streamlined, like he said, so many of our registrations and from services to programs, and saved a lot of staff time. And so I'm really appreciative of that. I'm really proud that we're able to do online registrations. I think if we don't market to this next generation, it's going to do us harm. And by doing that and allowing people to do that, and even working with the city now, we can pay online. So want to keep that trend going, as well as recognize people can still come in and register or call. But really appreciative of the work that Dave's put in over the last 2 years to streamline our stuff. So.
All right.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your dedication.
Okay, well then let's go back to the agenda. We have a quorum, and our first order of business then is the draft minutes of the January Commission on Aging Well. Were there any additions or corrections to the minutes that were sent to you in the packet? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the January 29th Commission on Aging Well?
I'll motion.
Is there a second? Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Our next order of business then is the resolution R0925, amending the general fund budget for the LTE nutrition site assistant.
Okay, so I'll just quickly kind of summarize this. The Fitchburg Senior Center Friends paid for the nutrition site LTE position in 2024 at 15 hours a week. And this was the second or third year I put it in the city budget, thank you. And it wasn't approved. So I went back to the Friends to see if they would be willing to fund this position again in 2025 and actually increasing the hours to 20 hours a week. Because I know you don't have this report in front of you, but I think we served almost 19,000 meals this year, which was 2,000 more than last year. Yeah, I have it right here. In 2024, we served 2,578 more meals. Yeah, and we served a total of 18,934. That's a lot of food going out the door. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with that program. So anyway, we're glad to have Chris on board. So the Friends agreed to fund part of the position. So I went back to the city and said, what could I do here to have some support from the city? So working with finance, we were able to use some disability insurance out of my budget that wasn't used, and so they allocated that to this position. And then I looked through my annual budget. So in 2024 and 2025, I was awarded $7,200 for transportation, which I am slightly embarrassed to say I didn't use that much of it, because when I started to really hone in on organizing transportation, it's a big job. And so, I would struggle with, do I just get a bus at $100 an hour and only 2 or 3 people want to stay for a program? Do I cab them? We had a few special events that we were able to have people stay for. And then at the same time, our county contracted provider decided that it was okay for them to stay late sometimes, whereas in the past, we weren't allocated, we weren't given that opportunity, and they didn't charge us. And I said, I have funding now, I can pay for you to stay late. And they said, it's okay, it's covered. So it's not a contract I see, but it tells me that Dane County allocated us more hours because we have so many people. So we saved a lot of money. So moving into 2025, I decided to take some of that money, $3,400, out of transportation. It still leaves us with, just over 4,000, and allocate it to the position. So at this point in time, the Friends are contributing 70% and the city is contributing 30%. But because it's coming out of my budget, we couldn't do this budget amendment until now. I couldn't do it last year. So that's why we're here today, to approve this transfer of funds to go to the LTE position. So yeah. Any questions about that? Okay.
Okay, it seems that there are no questions. Is there then an amendment to approve this resolution to transfer the funds?
You want an amendment or a motion?
A motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Von Ashby, second.
I just wanted to make sure you didn't want to make one before we
Oh, yeah.
voted.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, hearing none, the resolution passes to amend the general fund budget for the senior center LTE nutrition site assistant. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, now we will move to the 2025 initiatives.
Okay, so I sent you another packet, I guess, to discuss more about us moving forward and how we're going to do that. And, the last packet had a lot of information, it had a lot of trends, it had a lot of ideas and thoughts, and I asked you guys to prioritize what you thought was most important. And I kind of want to back up a little bit, because I am known to be all over the place. I have so many ideas and visions and directions that I want to head. And I think sort of Dave alluded to it. We've been here a long time, but we're at a really exciting point, I think, in the senior center because we're seeing a big increase of older adults. We're seeing some diversity. We're seeing more opportunities. And I'm really trying to look outside the box to determine where are we going to put our efforts with limited resources? Because as you saw with the census data last time, by 2030, we'll have almost 6,000 older adults in Fitchburg. And they run the gamut. They all don't look alike. They all don't, have the same income. They don't, different backgrounds and ethnicities, and which is so exciting. But I'm really struggling how to serve them. So I want to back up a little bit and have a discussion today and have input from each of you, starting with, who do you think we serve right now? Donald, I'll start with you.
In terms of?
For older adults, describe who you think comes through the doors. Who do we serve?
I think we serve mainly individuals who live in close proximity to where City Hall is, or individuals that are able-bodied and or have transportation to get here if need be. And primarily just coming through to the senior center, sometimes and seeing what I see, primarily Caucasian individuals, and mainly I see a lot of more women than I see men. A lot of times here at the senior center, but I do see the celebration of diversity and things for the individuals that are able to get over here, and I think it's specific to what is happening, and they're given interest on whether they attend or not, like some of the programming. And that would just be my general overview, just not being here in the senior center as much as you all are.
Perfect. Okay. Barbara?
Well, I would agree with what Donald said. I think the programs are difficult for me to judge, but there are a lot of programs. There's something going on all the time. And it seems that they are well attended, but whether they're at full capacity or not, or if there are other programs that might appeal to more people or broader, but I know they're popular because I know people who talk about them frequently. But I would agree it is female-centered.
Female-centered.
Mm-hmm.
Any other specifics about?
I think the meal program serves a completely different set of the community, and but it too is well attended, and I'm not sure if there is a crossover or there should be a crossover. And then of course there are the physical fitness programs, which seems to be like those are the three core areas. And then there's the travel bit that serves a completely different segment, maybe people that don't come here for programs but participate through the travel and rely on that.
Bonds? Oh, you're on mute.
Am I still on mute? No.
No, you're good.
I kind of agree with Donald. I think the center is very Eurocentric based, and it's kind of hard to get away from that when you look at the leadership who are Eurocentric based. Not saying anything's wrong with that, but it does tend to limit thought patterns, I think, a little bit. Hence, us trying to weigh in on things. I definitely agree it's female heavy. But some of the clubs, like the card and the board games, and I've seen a lot of guys in that kind of stuff. So I think it's an interest level too, as far as women versus men. Yeah, I would not say, and this is not everybody. I have had interesting. I have been challenged by some of our participants when I want to like change the radio station or turn the music down a little bit, or move a table that they're used to having because it's theirs. And my initial reaction is we all pay taxes. The center belongs to all of us, but I choose not to say anything and I don't challenge them. But I'm pretty good about standing up for myself. Anyone who would be any person of color who might be timid or withdrawn, they just wouldn't come.
Okay, so that kind of leads to
interaction like that.
who we
And
serve.
that's not a good thing, right? And that's not a good thing. So
Okay.
and we know we can have things like when lunch and learn happens, we have quite a number of, depending on the day, but quite a number of people of color from our community. So it's not like they don't live there, and most of those people have their own transportation.
Right.
But again, I mean, someone particularly told me, the music is so droll there. I was like, yeah, I agree, and that's why I changed the music. And somebody came up to me and said, "That's not what we play here," and I'm like,
okay.
What do you mean?
So that lends to who we serve doesn't enjoy that kind of music. Okay. Anything else?
No, that for me that's big.
Okay. Paul?
If I don't feel if I feel challenged and I'm comfortable coming in there,
Okay.
In fact, I have a friend moving to Fitchburg just because of the center, and I'm kind of concerned about her and her interactions with people there.
Well, maybe you can come with her.
Yeah. Oh, I will.
Okay. All right, Paul?
So I think I agree. It appears to skew more towards the female population. Obviously, people who are retired, looking for a socially stimulating environment, whether it's be for the noon meal or to participate in programs, and the convenience of having a number of services located in one place. Don't have to travel all over town for some of these services and programs. A lot is contained right there, and that's who we serve.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? What's your view as a meal driver? Because I think you see a different demographics out there.
I do. I see a lot of people who would probably be in assisted living or maybe even in a nursing home if they did not have Meals on Wheels.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of them, it's the only thing that's really allowing them to stay in their home. And I mean, we're dealing with a lot of individuals who are living by themselves, most heavily female centric, widows. Many of them have been in and out of hospitals, but they want to get back into their houses, and the Meals on Wheels program allows us to do that.
Can I ask a quick question about Meals on Wheels?
Sure.
Is there a supplement or a few extra things in it for people on weekends? So when you get your meal on Fridays,
you have to. So I'll just answer it real quick because the county went a couple of years ago. The county went to a system where you had to qualify for the number of meals that you get each week because the funding is so limited. So there might be a couple individuals that qualified for 2 meals on a Friday so they can have one on the weekends. But it doesn't happen as often as it used to because the funding is so limited.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't know how that worked. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, Janice.
Okay. I agree with some of everything that folks have said. Clearly, that population is Caucasian. I think the age, for the most part, is 65 and above, and I do agree that it's more females that attend the center than not. I do believe that we serve some affluent, and we serve some lower income. I do also believe that our participants, if you will, are very segmented, right? I think Jill, I shared with you, it's a feel of a bit of a country club, a health club, and a social services. And that's how it feels to me. But I think it's a bit of transition. People are having a difficult time. Change is very hard for people. And something to Vaughn's point, some of the people that have been coming there for many, many, many years, that's their center, right? And now with the population changing, the demographics changing, it's difficult for people. But I think we serve some people. There's some entitlement that goes on there, but there's also some people that just want to be a part of, regardless if you're white, black, Asian, whatever. They just want to be a part of, and that's just something that going forward that we need to work on as a whole. But I do believe that some of what everybody said, I'm not looking at it from a standpoint of programs that we offer. I'm looking at a standpoint of people come there. A lot of those people, that's their center. That's and we just got to work on that. In terms of having people realize that this is everybody's center. So that's who we serve. I think we serve some people that have just been there for so long that it's kind of hard for them to open up, and that's what I think. That's what I think.
Okay, I appreciate that input. I think I'm going to have another question for all of you, and just putting it out there, because again, I think we're at a big transition. I am finding rooms are getting double booked, and we're going to run out of space soon. But I do look a little bit towards the city to say to the city, who do you want to serve and how? Because that is going to help us determine how we're going to serve. So the next question on there is targeted older adults that can benefit the most from senior center programs and services. So this is kind of that crossroads. So I think in the last packet, there's 3 populations we're serving. We're serving the old. That might be more frail, as Paul might be referring to, the social service piece of that, maybe, and then we're serving, I would say 75 to 85, which is more average, and then this younger generation coming up. And each of them presents different challenges and different opportunities to serve them. But I want to ask each of you, when you look at being a part of this great city and how we're going to move forward, if I have to limit because of resources or staffing, where am I going to put my energies? Like where should I be targeting our efforts to make sure we serve who and how? Donald?
That's a good question. Can you come back to me? I don't really know.
Anybody think right away off the top of their head how to answer that? Okay, go ahead, Barbara.
Ask the question. Can you ask the question again?
Yeah, I want to know, based on some of the challenges we're facing, which is, increasing the diversity. We have a lot of older adults that need more social services, that are, having mental health issues. We don't have transportation, which kind of goes to an equity issue. We also have an affluent, we are still, this city is still predominantly white. So we have a lot of folks coming in, and then we do have affluent folks as well that, those are our donors, and this is also their center. And so the challenge is, with my limited resources and now space, as I program more, as we look at social services, if I really had to pick where my efforts weigh more heavily, what population should that be, and how do I strike that balance? Does that make sense?
So, yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
So, and how much of your funding is tied to giving certain services? For example, case management is already, what funds are already directed toward a certain population?
Yeah. So,
and what's discretionary?
Yeah.
So to speak.
The case management, has to go to case management, but that covers maybe 20% of the salaries of the case managers, and then nutrition about the same. We don't get any money for food. In fact, all the donations go back to Dane County, so they kind of pay for some of the supplies. So I don't have a lot of discretion there. Now, we fight for more funding for nutrition. The city does put money in my budget for supplies as well, because I think that this year we've got 148,000. Case management is about 90,000, and the rest goes into nutrition. We're not going to get a lot more from Dane County. We're not going to get a lot more from the feds. So then you start leaning in on the city, for more staffing for case management. I don't need a lot of supplies. I just need staff. Nutrition, you need money for supplies and that sort of thing. So does that answer your question?
No.
But I don't want to tie it to money right now. I just want to tie it to
Yeah, I was going to say you have to.
Well, I won't say that out loud. I'll find the money because I don't know if I can. But if, in a whole world, or not in this, not a dream, but the reality is if we have limited resources to serve older adults, limited staff time, like Dave talked, we engage all the time, oftentimes that helps, but the more programs you offer, the more staff time it takes. Do we weigh more on diversity? Do we weigh more on people that are very low income and frail? Do we weigh more on, the people that are coming to the doors and, somebody just emailed, hey, can you have a stained glass class? Which all of that, everybody deserves all of that, but I don't know if I can serve everybody giving 100%. Does that make sense? Okay, Paul?
Yeah. Jill, last month you put up a slide had 5 different buckets that you wanted us to prioritize. Can you put that up?
Oh, I don't have it on this one actually, but I can talk about it. And that was kind of like, I almost, as I started thinking more about this, Paul, part of me wishes I wouldn't have done that, because I feel like maybe I'm skewing. I want you guys to think too how we want to move forward. But I can tell you those buckets were increased technology, consider a senior center without walls, more pop-up events, plan for building upgrades, more space, focus on rebranding the senior center, changing the name, and then developing stronger community partnerships.
So at our last meeting, I recall you wanted us to kind of prioritize those buckets.
Yeah, but today I kind of wanted to back up, but go ahead and give me your input.
Okay, well, just looking at those 5 buckets and looking at my, my experience in corporate public relations, I tend to gravitate toward the importance of developing stronger community partnerships.
Right.
Because I think by having greater community partnerships, that helps you to do the other 4 things. It helps you to, consider what does a senior center without walls look like? What type of technology? You're not going to be able to do all of these things by yourself. And the more resources you can draw from through community partnerships will help you along the way in addressing a myriad of things. So that's kind of where I was coming from.
No, that's a good point.
And Paul, I would agree, that's exactly how my list shook out as well, of those 5 things, that starting with stronger community partnerships might help you identify who those target audiences are, and through that find their leaders and find ways to bring them in to the center.
Janice?
And their ideas on what services should be offered that we may not even be thinking about.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Jill, correct me if I'm incorrect. When you first started, you said you wanted to table that part of it.
Yeah.
In terms of us prioritizing, because you're trying to go through these questions that you had. Is that correct? Because that's what.
I didn't want to. We're not going to go, real deep into the priorities, but But I think connecting some of these dots too. But I think my main thing is even if we build community partnerships and I get some funding, who should we be serving? I got from who you think we're serving, but who do you think we should be serving? Are we missing anybody? Or should the efforts be towards somebody else or a different segment of this older population, as we have, 6,000 older adults. I don't know. Go ahead, Donald.
I would say I think we should serve the most amount of people with the most amount of resources available versus serving fewer people and spreading things thin. And so basically, like, double down on what we can do well right now, and continue to provide that type of A1 service, and instead of spreading things thin and trying to hit on so many buckets. And then as more programs, more staff, or things become available, then you branch out and try to do it. But I think it's important to do the things that we can do well right now. And then as things change and things develop and the city becomes more diverse and hopefully there's more money that comes in and things like that, then we spread the wealth around and try to incorporate some of those other services and serve some of those other individuals. Because, I mean, it's unrealistic to put it on you and the staff to try to do everything. And I don't want it to happen, because what will happen is now this is when complaining comes in, or complaints come in, because now, you started to serve a certain demographic, and that opens the door for, well, why don't you do this? Or, well, why don't you do that? Yeah. So if you can't do those things yet, I don't even think you enter that realm yet until it's being able to be done with fidelity.
Like it.
So, okay, I'm sorry. Go out of turn there.
Go ahead, Janice.
Oh, so I agree with Donald to an extent, because I believe that less is more, without a doubt. But I also believe that because that center belongs to every resident here, taxpayer-wise, I don't know if it's about us taking a look at who do we eliminate or whatever in terms of groups of individuals, because they all obviously, have a need. They come there for a reason. And I also agree with Donald. We really need to focus on the people that are coming there now, whether it's affluent, whether it's the individuals of low income, whatever. I don't know if we change who comes to the center, because all of them are taxpayers, right? And they all belong there. I think it's a matter of how do we serve them better. And maybe maybe that does mean reducing programming or what have you, but I don't know if it's so much reducing the individuals that come to the center, because they all have a right to be there. Mm-hmm. They all have a right to be there. Right. It's just, how do we serve them? Mm-hmm. And again, less is more, and that could be reducing programs or what have you. So I'm looking at it from maybe a different angle, in terms of, who do we serve? Because I think any and everybody that walks through that door has a right to be there. Whether they're walking around like they're entitled or not, or what.
Struggle is, do I try to get more people in the doors? Because that definitely has been a theme of, who knows about you? We have a whole town of Madison that's annexed that we need to do more outreach so they know about us. So are those efforts trying to get more people in the doors, or Janice, like serving who comes in the doors and, striking that balance with the staff that we have?
Yeah, I think I think the outreach that, whether it's diversity or not, it's not so much focusing, I'm outreaching because of the diversity.
Uh-huh.
I'm outreaching in general, right? The diversity, it's a thing. Fitchburg has changed. Their diversity is out there. We have to, work on that. That should be just your everyday operation.
Mhm.
That should be what you do every day. Outreach is something that you do every day. Not so much that you have to put extreme amount of money in it or extreme amount of effort in it, but that should be part of your plan on an ongoing basis.
Okay.
The outreach.
If you serve the people that are there now as best you can, you will get more people through the door. Because the
Yeah.
senior citizens that you're helping right now can be your biggest ambassadors.
Okay.
So I think we need to figure out a way to make sure we're maximizing the service to the people who are already there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Paul. Like that's kind of what and Janice, I wasn't saying that we like decrease the number of people that like comes, but basically kind of going to the point Paul just made about just making sure that we utilizing the resources that we currently have to the best of our abilities before like spreading them thin and branching out, because a lot of times like what you'll see with organizations is like they go and then you stretch yourself so thin that some of the things that you were doing well might begin to suffer because you're stretching it out. And I think again, like when you do good work, individuals will come and they'll hear about it. And then from there, when you're doing good work, hopefully when the influx of people come, there's more other resources and things that come along with that. But
No, that's very helpful.
Yeah, no, I didn't assume that that's what you meant. But I mean, it's similar to what I was saying. Is that when my point about everybody that comes that's in there, they deserve to be there. And if we take a look at what we're offering, when I'm talking about more, less is more. That may be programming or whatever, and that may fall into the bucket of we do well. We take a look at what we're doing and what we're serving, what we're providing them, and just do it well.
Absolutely.
But outreach is, that outreach comes from the people that come there. As what Paul was saying, outreach is broad, and it comes from a lot of different people. Not so much just the staff out there outreaching. The individuals that come to the center does outreaching, and they have a friend come, they're whatever. So I'm just saying some of those things are just natural. Yeah. But I do think what we was work on, enhancing, how we treat the people that come there currently.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very helpful. Barb, you have any? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I do have to take off, you all. Just for I have a standing work meeting now at 10. I gotta get back to, but see you all later, and just let me know.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Follow up with if you had specific things that you wanted me to pull out of the report to be mentioned at the next council meeting. All right, thank you.
Yes. Barb, do you have anything?
Thank you.
Well, I agree that the good news spreads.
Yes.
And if people have a good experience here, they'll tell their friends about it and encourage them to come. I think, though, that it's also important to promote what you do here in a way that lets people know, maybe from your point of view, what's going on, such as maybe having a corner in the newsletter reporting on the status of it, how many people you're serving, how many programs you have, explaining the rich variety so that people that don't know everything that goes on, maybe they come one day a week or something. But also things like Dave's simplification of registration. Mm-hmm. Promoting some of that to give people the sense that this is really an organization that is on the move, that we're always constantly striving to improve, and we're looking for letting that filter out to the community so that maybe that encourages them to make their own recommendations or say, well, I thought about this, rather than just asking them to bring in a program from their area of expertise.
Right.
Those are fun things, but on a long-term basis, I think it's important for the staff to be visible to the community, and so that if they do have a recommendation or they've got a question, they know who to contact, but they also know that people are really working on their behalf and kind of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that could easily be done in just a little column in the newsletter every month.
Okay. Well, I know for me, I mean, even just this exchange is very helpful, because I do put a lot of pressure on myself to, when I think about outreach, it's so overwhelming because I'm thinking about always bringing more people in versus just sharing our message. And I think that, you know, the input that I'm hearing today feels better. It gives me a little bit, it's not as overwhelming. I mean, I know it's important to get out there and do that outreach, all of us using those ambassadors too, but I also am hearing, it seems like across the board, is continue doing what we're doing and serving the people that are coming through the doors and doing it really, really well, so that word of mouth and, you know, the word gets out that we are, you know, a good place and that people are welcome. So is that what you guys are hearing? Is it sort of a general message that we've agreed upon, or a direction, I should say? Both Janice and Vaughn's have funny looks on their faces.
Yeah, because I think.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Vaughn. Go ahead.
No, please.
No, I'm not going to say that that's the direction in which we all agree upon. Is that a piece of what we need to be doing? Yes, I would agree. I think that's a piece of it. I don't know how you. I wouldn't say that. Yes, that's up. That, you know, that we agree upon. I think outreach comes in a variety of ways. Yeah. A variety of ways, and it's not. You know, it's not so much about getting a ton of people to come in there, just as it's not so much about having 1,001 programs. Right. You know, so I think we have to take a look at it in a way that, okay, I mean, and to Barb's point, she's, you know, I'm that's fine putting some in the newsletter, but not everybody gets the newsletter or read it. At the same time, guys, I'm going to say this. The demographics in Fitchburg has changed tremendously, right? So I'm not so much saying, oh, we got to get 1,000 people coming that door, but we have to acknowledge that there are other residents out here that we need to somehow try and to get that word out to some people. Go ahead.
Well, Janice, that's part of that outreach too that we've been talking about.
Well, exactly. That's why I keep saying outreach is so important. But we have a segment of individuals in Fitchburg that don't have an idea that the senior center even exists.
Right, but by going back to way back when, those 5 points from last month, developing stronger community partnerships would that not be a step to start with?
Well,
talk to some community leaders and find out, are we reaching to get a better?
Yes, that you could do it in that respect, but I moved on from that. I mean, I was not focusing on that because Jill had moved us on and said she was tabling that. But that's all. Community relationships are always important, and yes, there's a whole lot of that can fall underneath that. So all I'm just saying, Jill, to your question, is this what we all agreed upon? I couldn't say that completely. That's just my point. That's all I'm saying.
Go ahead.
I'm not saying things bad.
Oops. Sorry, Janice. Go ahead.
I'm not saying anything is wrong or bad or what have you. I'm just giving you my feedback in terms to what your comment. That's all.
Okay.
When it comes to, and this is Bonds, when it comes to saying, well, we're all ambassadors. Well, even if we say everybody who currently comes to the center is an ambassador, you look at the population who currently comes. So we don't have a lot of people of color in general. I mean, everywhere I go, I talk it up all the time. But I'm one person. Janice is one person. There may be 7 or 8 more people compared to how many meals? Well, not the meals. Let's not do that. But how many people come to classes at that place? 2,000, 3,000 people. That center that's the people who are involved in the center do not reflect the population in the city of Fitchburg.
Absolutely.
Okay, that absolutely.
And
That's
it
that.
takes
That's
more
so.
than
That's
just
the.
say,
So what? So you know, coming from the perspective of you and Janice and Donald, because you know, and Janice and I have talked about this. You know, Janice has gotten involved some more Black people to come since they've been involved, and I say that because I've been here a long time, and I have reached out to similar people that don't really respond to me like they have to Janice. That's just the facts, and I take a lot of ownership of trying to do better about increasing diversity, but I also feel like you're gonna have to give me some concrete ideas about engaging
so
Black
here's
people.
an example.
Yeah,
And this isn't only, but the one that popped into my head last year when I was at the Agora Art Fair, is that what they call it?
yeah,
The one that's over there by the sales?
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. There were a couple of people of color there, Black, Asian, and Hispanic. And it just so happened that the Hispanic family I knew because I knew I had the grandkid when I was teaching. I had the grandkid, and the grandkid's grown now, and I started talking to him. And her mom is very elderly now. And I said, have you guys ever been over to the center? What center? Like you were saying, Janice.
okay,
They didn't know the center existed. They didn't realize grandma doesn't speak English very well. They didn't realize they would, if they go or call in ahead of time, we could find someone who could do interpretations for her. I mean, it was this whole new ball that opened up, but they had no idea you were even there to ask.
okay. That's helpful.
So that, I mean,
Outreach.
so even doing like the art fair, there's a couple, I mean, we not a lot, but there's a couple things we have here in Fitchburg. We have Italian days.
Right, and we've got bunch. We've got a whole
We can have an information table.
yeah.
Not saying that's the end all be all, but that's a start. The other thing is, come summer when it's nicer out, you know, and I'd be willing to do it with a Fitchburg staff member, not on my own. We hang out at the grocery store, get a table at the grocery store, just saying, "Who do you know who we are?" And then we can talk to people as they come in. Trust me, everybody go to the grocery store at some point in time.
No, so that kind of circles back to that outreach.
That's exactly what
it does, but
So
it's
that's-
outreach
yes.
led by you all with our support, not me doing outreach by myself. I cannot do outreach. Somebody said, you know, well, we can just be ambassadors. There are not enough of us to be ambassadors to all the people of color in the city of Fitchburg.
And
And
that's
there's
why
not
you
enough people at Fitchburg Center involved to be the ambassadors.
Right.
and that's why you
Okay.
develop community partnerships so that you can help spread that word.
Right. That's all tied to it too.
Okay, how many community partnerships are out there that are owned? How many businesses are owned by people of color in the Fitchburg community?
You tell me.
No, you tell me.
There's,
Does it?
I would say none. And not only that, how many businesses in Fitchburg even have people of color? And I'm not speaking just about Black people.
Right,
That
or
work for-
Latino, Hispanic. Mhm.
Right, but we can't solve that. I can only solve what we have here.
Well,
Right.
And what
Well,
we
what
can
we're
do.
saying is, right, but it gets back to that point of when you say we'll just do outreach, that's not going to be outreach. Just saying the people who are involved in Fitchburg Community Center now can do outreach. Because there's not enough people in the community itself. When you say we'll get community partners, what community partners are you looking at to bring in a diverse group of people?
Well, that's something you have to figure out.
Right.
yeah,
Okay,
but
I'm asking you for an example, though. Jill,
community
I gave
partners,
Jill an example. What's your example?
Wait. Who are you talking to, Bonds?
the Paul, I think.
Yes.
The Paul.
Oh,
What was your question?
yeah.
I said I gave an example of an outreach opportunity that we haven't delved into. So I say this is a problem, and I've got an example of how we can start solving it. You say we could do this. I'm asking you for an example of how that can be done.
Well, we as a group decide how we proceed in that area.
So give me an example, Paul. I'm asking for something concrete.
I'm not going to give you an example without collective thought into this.
Well, let me.
That's what we're doing now.
Or have an open discussion. I will say, Bonds, and this started 2 years ago where we were at the Luna Fest at Ally Drive with a table. We were at Community Night Out, which we've always been. We have a big, long list of places that we're going to be. We're going to train ambassadors to go to the Munchmobiles, which go out into lower income areas. So I do have an outreach plan, and I don't disagree we can do better. But for me, I need to bring on more people of color to represent the senior center. That's where I'm going to lean in on you and Janice, because I'm not as successful as I need to be.
But but see, I don't think that's it. I hear what you're saying, Jill, on that. Two things to that. Number one, yes, you were at the Luna Fest last year because I was there. But that's another. I'll talk to you offline about that kind of stuff. But it's not even so much about bringing in people of color that has to be on committees at the senior center or whatever. It's more fundamental of getting people of color. And again, I'm not focusing on just Black people, but people of color to know that we exist, and that they're welcome to come. That isn't that. I've been talking outreach since we've been talking. So outreach comes in a lot of different ways. And the outreach doesn't have to be, my whole focus is just on diversity. I mean, outreach, I'm not saying you don't outreach to get, other Caucasian individuals. And you want to get new people in as well sometimes.
Period. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's about outreach.
I feel like we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah, and
somehow.
And I think too that when you start expanding this into let's get everybody in, that's exactly what Donald had said we shouldn't do.
There's a fine line.
So we have to tread carefully to stay to be able to ensure that we're providing the very best service that we can to everyone who comes. And I think that is part of what will generate more people coming.
Yes.
When everyone comes has a good experience.
I think that's an absolute given. That right there, I think in that case, I think we all are saying the same thing. At the same time, back to the comment, but it's not reflective of the community, of the residents. So we've got to figure out a way. I mean,
that's a long term.
We can't say
right.
No. It could be a long term, but it's a short term goal as well. It's a short term goal as well. We've got. I have to be honest, guys. And maybe the outreach, maybe it is just about diversity. I'm not gonna say put that in anybody else's mouth, words in your mouth, but we have to be honest with ourselves and take a look at who. The question was, who are we representing and who do we want to represent?
Well, I think maybe.
And I don't know about you guys. Now let me finish. I don't know about you guys. I'm gonna be honest. I want us to represent and be reflective of the residents of Fitchburg. To me, that's the bottom line.
I think we all do.
I think that's what everyone.
But Jill.
Yeah.
Jill, but come on. Now,
Jen, that's why we're having the discussion. That's what we're trying to do now. And so I'm getting mixed messages. I'm getting, it's not about diversity. We need to serve all, but then there's a heavy weight. I agree. I want to focus on diversity. I'm going to say it right now. We have plenty of Caucasian people that know about the senior center that come in. We have plenty of low-income Caucasian people that probably don't. We have a lot of Spanish people in Fitchburg. We don't speak Spanish. I'm trying with the Hispanic group. and we're doing better. We're making strides. But for the Black people, we're not doing great. And outreach will help, but you know what? Maybe it's a reflection of programming. But I think this discussion today, you know, no one here doesn't want to increase diversity. It's just, how do we better do that? So I don't want to say this isn't about diversity, because it is. This is exactly about serving the community that looks like the community, which is very diverse. So we have a big population of Caucasian people, but we're still going to keep in mind that is, when I look at the census data, you know, I'm not going to get all the Black people here and no white people, because it doesn't reflect our population.
Well,
we can do better.
You're not asking for that. I would want that.
No, I know, but I'm just saying. Go ahead, Barb.
Well, maybe the thing to ask is not who is our target, because we all agree that the services should reflect everyone in the community, and that we want everyone in the community to come, but ask the question, why don't they come?
Right.
Why are they not coming? Do they not feel welcome?
Right.
Do they not know?
Right.
Are there services that are not of interest to all groups?
Yeah.
And if so, once you have the answers to those questions,
Right.
what can you do within
Yes.
the resources that you have that will will answer those questions and overcome those obstacles?
I mean, that seems logical.
But can I say this, Jill? Can I say this? And I respect what you're saying, Barb, without a doubt. But Jill, we've had that conversation over and over and over. So there's been those conversations in the past. And what concerns me is the fact that we need to say, look, we know it is what it is, right? It is what it is. I mean, that question about do they not feel welcome? Jill, you've brought that up several times, and that's been a question. We know that. So then there's a question there, why? Yes, why don't they feel welcome?
Right.
But at the end of the day, no matter how we flip this pancake, we still have an issue about serving the population that is reflective of, the residents that's reflective of the population here. And so maybe it's a two-part. We work our butts off continuing to make sure that the people that are coming there, we are serving them well. We're enhancing what we're doing for them, whether that means changing programs, doing what have you. But we make sure that when they come to the senior center, that they enjoy it, that we're giving all our 100% to those residents that come. But at the same time, our focus is on outreach to bring in other residents that's reflective of the community. And that is where your point about diversity comes in. And maybe, and then to figure out a plan, a real plan on how we're doing that. But I don't think you can't separate them. If indeed we as a group are saying we really want to reach out and serve the residents of Fitchburg, whether you're white, you're Black, whatever, right? Black one. That's something that we really have got to come to the table and figure out. And I appreciate you having that question, Jill, but I think this is a conversation, it's obvious, that needs to be had.
No, I'm happy to have this discussion. I've been focused on diversity for years. I think, again, Vance, you've alluded to the fact that, somebody that hadn't felt comfortable here. These are things that that we can work on. Why is it? I know that the folks that do come regularly of color feel very comfortable here. So why some do and some don't? And the same with, not all white people walk in the doors and love us either.
I feel comfortable.
So certainly there's a segment of the population that no matter what we do and how much we bend over backwards, they're not going to like us. I've accepted that. But if there's specific incidents, that somebody's like, if it's the music, Okay, let's talk about that. There's little things that we can do, but it's bigger than that, and that's something that I can't figure out alone.
It's the culture,
It's much,
Jill.
yes.
It's the culture of that center.
But again, I understand that, but
people,
we're here today to solve that. And you're saying things that I don't know how to solve. Like, we've talked about redecorating, and we're trying to work towards, we have an inclusion toolkit that we're working on. So I understand.
What's the inclusion toolkit?
But I don't want to go down. I understand we need to change it, but I'm looking to you guys to give specifics. Does that make sense?
But no.
It does make sense. But if I don't know what you already are working on, how can I add to or give you suggestions? Like you mentioned, I know we're not going into that now.
Yeah,
but you mentioned a diversity toolkit. That might be really great. I have no idea. I didn't know we were working on anything. But I can tell you when and where I felt a microaggression in that building.
Perfect.
And
okay.
by whom? Well, I don't know people's names. If I can tell you, I know what it is. I trained school districts on it. I can tell you what it is.
That's what I mean. That's what I want to get down to, is those specific things that we can then get better at. Because when I look at the dining room and the people that are coming to the programs that are people of color, and they're really happy here, I got to hear about the other part of it. And Janice, I'm sure you have experiences or know people too. I don't know why only Lunch and Learn, that more Black people come for Lunch and Learn than they don't come for exercise or writing or, other things like that.
Because they have a personal relationship with Janice.
Right.
They're not reading the notebook or going online. They actually have a relationship with her. And that's what makes a difference for some, not all, but for a large number of people of color.
Okay.
I connected to Susie the first time I came. I just kept coming. And when I was lost or confused, that's who I went to. I didn't know all of you guys in that place, but I knew Susie. And that was a friendly face for me.
Okay, so
those are the times
that's a good thing.
People feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But this is a whole other ball game now. Sorry.
That's okay. This is good.
Let me just give some credit to Jill. Yes, you are very committed, I do believe, to trying to figure out this whole diversity thing, and you have in the past done some work on trying to get people of color in, and we've had all these conversations about when people come in and they see someone who looks like them, there's that level of comfort. But there's been the conversations, Jill, even prior to my coming, there was, some Black older women, particularly, that came and then stopped coming. You and I have had that conversation about the why and what have you. And we're not going to please everybody. Everybody's not going to want to come, to the center. That's a fact.
Right.
But let us not act as if though we have not experienced some of the conversation that we're having today, because we have.
Oh yeah.
And I think the fact is, but the fact is that it is about culture. It is about, we talked about, and you and I have talked about this, and I recognize it's fun. You don't have a ton of money to do stuff, but when you come in, there's no examples, pictures on the wall, people of color, and or this and that, or it's a welcoming thing comes in a lot of different ways, and optics make a big difference.
Right.
A big difference. And so I just think that I value this conversation today, because I'm going to say this, is that each of us have our own values and our own life experience, lived experiences. And we come to this conversation in our decisions and our thoughts with the values that we feel close to our hearts. I have certain values, so when we have conversations, I think you can see from Paul to Barbara to Avance to down to myself. We all come to this table with our own values, and that helped. I mean, that our responses, our decisions, our values are wrapped all up in that. And so I think that today's conversation, even though it's a little tense, a little bit, I think is good. Extremely important, because if we as a commission cannot sit and talk about this, and how do we fix this, in the center, it's not going to change. It's on us. We have a responsibility to the center and to the residents of Fitchburg to turn this around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is, this is the first time we've had any people of color on the commission. And Janice, when I first met you, I said, why don't you be on the commission? It's been a long time, and Vaughn's the same. I invited you to be on the commission. So I am not afraid of these discussions. I welcome them.
Yeah, no.
I had ate a deer. Yeah. But, we have some room to get better. And I think that, you all understand that I am committed to this. So, if I'm going to sound defensive, I apologize, but I don't want to sound offended. You have to know I'm committed to this, and this is the first time I've had people of color on the commission to point out some things, because I'm not Black and I didn't live your experience, and I want to do better.
And people on this committee aren't Black. I mean, besides Janice Donald and I, are not people of color. But when we speak, I have seen, and this is a microaggression, I have seen people walk over me or totally ignore me.
But they might do that.
I almost quit the committee, Jill.
But we've had white people say that too, so it's not. Sometimes
well, I'm saying on this committee though. So if we on this committee cannot tolerate one another, why should I expect people that I don't know out there in that center to tolerate them?
I think we can tolerate each other here. Yeah.
No, well, but you're not. Janice just said it. You are not a person of color. You're not walking in my shoes, Jill. So I can make a comment in this meeting, and there will be people who totally ignore me. They don't acknowledge I'm speaking, one, and then repeat what I said or totally discard what I said is unimportant, two. Both of those are microaggressions, meaning I know better than you, so I need to speak over you. That's a classic microaggression. It happens in our meetings, and it happens at the center. So when you tell me you're working on a packet or something, I'm like, well, where are you at in that packet? Because I'm still getting the same feelings when I walk in there. And people know me by now.
How does that apply to the commission, though? I don't understand.
If I can't feel comfortable in this commission, why should I encourage people to come to the center, Paul? If a Black person came up to me...
I guess I don't understand why you feel that way.
Okay, so I'll give you as an example. The last meeting we had, we were talking, and I cannot remember what it was, Paul, but I decided to let it slide because I'm accustomed to people like you. Not trying to be funny, but white males who feel like, my interpretation is, white males who feel like what they have to say is more important than anything a person of color may have to say. So I made a suggestion and a comment. One, you didn't give me any eye contact or even look in my direction. You spent the whole time I was talking, looking at Jill, and as soon as I stopped talking, you interceded and started talking to Jill. Just like what I said didn't matter, and we're going to go on to what you needed to say. That's a microaggression. There was no acknowledgement of me, and you wanted me, as soon as I stopped talking, you jumped right in. I don't think you did it on purpose, Paul. Actually, I don't think you even knew what you did. And that's why I decided to leave it alone. But it was enough to piss me off where I told Janice that I was going to talk to Jill and come off the committee. And I decided to wait the weekend. Janice said, think on it. Don't do it now. Think on it. Because I have done my entire life. You can look on Google or whatever. I worked on issues with staff and students of color and white teachers. I did it all my life. I trained school districts all over the state of Wisconsin for the Department of Public Instruction. So when I say, whether you believe me or not, when I say it, I'm telling you what I feel. I'm not saying what you feel. I'm telling you what I feel. You don't have to agree, but you cannot argue my feelings. So when I say I walk into that center and I fully feel it is a white culture in that center, you don't have to agree. But I'm telling you, unless we do some changes, that's what every person of color is going to feel, because I feel it. I just happen to be a person who can put words to it because I trained on it. Now you asked for example. I had said nothing about it, Paul, but you asked for example, so I gave it to you. I honestly don't think you did it on purpose, but it really left me thinking, why am I on this committee if they feel like that? I was asked to be on this community so you could have another voice of color from a different viewpoint at the table. Because in order to make changes, I know I need to work within a system, which means a seat at the table. But I have done 33 years of working with white people who, yeah, we want you to have a seat at the table, but we really don't want you to talk. We really don't want to acknowledge your presence. So when you did that, Paul, unknowingly, it told me. I said unknowingly, Paul.
From the truth.
Pardon me?
That could not be further from the truth. I'm very disappointed in this discussion.
What are you disappointed in? That I'm sharing my feelings?
That you have that impression of me.
Okay.
Well,
I just don't know where that's coming from.
That's another story.
I think it's not productive to continue to debate this, but I would suggest that that we take this, look at this matter and consider what we can do to improve communication on the commission from all points of view. And it's important to speak up when you feel that you're not heard, Vaughn. So I think it's helpful to know that you feel this way, and you know, I can't imagine what it must feel like to be in a, you know, to feel unheard. But
so hold on one second. You called me, you mispronounced my name. I tried to correct you and you kept talking.
Well, that's part of the Zoom. I did not pick up any cue that you tried to correct me. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. That's okay. My name is Vance.
I thought that's what I said.
Vaughn.
Okay, well,
no, it's not a whatever.
No, I think that we can.
Whatever, guys.
I'm sorry?
I said it's not a whatever. That's again dismissing what I'm feeling.
I did not say whatever. I said I thought that's what I said.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought somebody else said on here whatever. Not you, somebody else.
I don't know.
No, I was trying to interject that I agree with Barbara that I hear you. I respect everybody on this commission. We all are bringing different things to the table. I think that, you know, if some of this needs to be talked about offline, but let's, you know, these are valid points, Vance, and if we need to have a microaggression training on the Commission on Aging, I think I've actually looked at speakers for that through the Inclusion Toolkit, which is something I did bring to the Commission early on last year. I shared the whole toolkit with all of you in a packet, so I'm happy to send that again. But anyway, I think this was a really good discussion, and I knew that these discussions were going to be uncomfortable, and I'm not afraid of uncomfortable discussions, because I don't think unless you feel uncomfortable can you learn and grow. So I hope that we can continue these discussions. There was a lot of great input, and we're just beginning. And there's going to be uncomfortable discussions. And I think that if we can all maintain a respectful way of communicating, and if there is something that, you know, is triggering somebody, that it can be discussed, and if it needs to be discussed offline, we can do that too. But I think we're all professional adults and we can continue these discussions. Do you all agree?
Certainly.
Janice, I can see you smiling up there.
I'm just listening. I'm fine. Yeah, as I said earlier, I think that this obviously was a somewhat of this discussion that needed to be had, and yes, we have to work through it. And I think that it starts with us at Commission, and we have a lot of influence and input on where, you know, the center goes and what have you. So it's important for us to be all work together. We all have to work. this is about diversity of thought, right? Diversity of feelings and etc. And we had this conversation. Yeah, I think there's some value to what was discussed today.
Me too.
Okay. Let's move on to the report from the Senior Center Friends. Jill, do you have any additional
Gail couldn't come today, but she shared with me that they wanted to save the date for the pancake breakfast, which is the 27th of April. Special needs was about $660 on some cab rides, some moving expenses for some clients, and applications for housing. So that's all that she had shared for that report.
Oh, okay.
Jill, are we finding that I want to say their cost, but I guess it's not a cost so much, but they're having to donate more money? It just seems like it goes up, or maybe that's me.
No, they actually have upped.
It's about the same.
It's about the same, but it is increasing, Vance. In fact, at the last meeting, I think they increased their allocation for special needs. It's not so much, we're getting a lot of requests, but the requests are bigger because people are struggling more. So they're larger. They used to limit like $500 a year per person, but that's not enough. Some people just really struggle. So they've increased that.
Thank you. Just wanted clarity.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was going up every month.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, the report from the director then.
I don't have a lot. You all have the newsletter. I don't need to regurgitate that. I welcome you to come down to help us celebrate Black History Month. We have a nice poster that our multicultural group designed that showcases the first, maybe the only. I tried to work with the Fitchburg Historical Society. They didn't have any information, but one of our members discovered a sign up at the Arboretum near the corner of Todd Drive and Seminole that talked about the Henderson family. And back in the late 1800s, that was the town of Fitchburg, and they were Black farmers in Fitchburg. So Stu, who sits on the multicultural group, talked to Janice a little bit too, worked with the Wisconsin Historical Society as well as the Veterans Museum, and put together a really nice display that's down there. And then we also have just another poster board for Black History Month. And then at the end of the month on the 26th is a bonus lunch and learn called Stony Road, the Story. And Betty Banks and Pia Kinney-James will be talking about just Black history. They're historians, I would say. Janice, you want to add to that?
Yeah, actually, they are from some of the first families that settled in Madison, and they will talk about how it all started. The first families that moved into Madison, how they built the Black communities, whether it's churches, businesses, et cetera, and they both are community historians. And the interesting part about both of them, Betty Banks is the producer of Today Not Tomorrow TV show, and connected somehow with Channel 3, Paul. And then Pia Kinney-James was the first Black female police officer for the city of Madison. So it's history in a lot of different levels that they're going to come and share that information about how the Black communities get started in the Madison and Dane County area.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
I expect a big crowd. I was telling Janice we're starting to get a lot of calls. So,
yeah.
And it's because she's going to have a big splash in the Fitchburg Star.
Oh man.
So that's coming out too. So those were the main points that I wanted to make. So that's it.
Are there any other announcements? Our next meeting is March 13th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do have one other announcement, is that Nancy, she goes by Nan Hoffman, had applied to serve the remainder of Jim's term on the Commission on Aging, and will be appointed at the end of this month. So she'll be joining us in March.
Okay. Well, that's good too.
Okay.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the
Okay,
meeting.
second. All in favor?
Who's second?
Aye.
I did.
Yeah, did anybody second?
Aye.
It's like, I know you all want to go.
No, I guess
I seconded.
Okay, all right.
We are adjourned. All in favor,
Okay.
aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you.